On the left, microphone on the left. Is that okay? Right. As usual, I've had people suggest that the nails are in the wrong place on that. Not only do we teach beekeeping, we also teach hive construction as well. And the person who made this had just done a really good job of a brood chamber. And they brought that to me, and I took one look at it with a dead straight face. That's the outside of a roof. With a dead straight face, imagine that being the outside. I just very gently pushed on it, the whole lot just collapsed. And the person who did it, I think they ended up with gravel rush on their chin. Anyway, that's all part of the reason that beekeeping really is fun. Okay. A little bit we sort of briefly touched on in question time. I was going to make a mess of your video I've got. Right, it's only there, yeah, good stuff. A little bit about the evolution of bees. I'll put a question mark behind there because I'm not sure that we are 100% certain about the evolution of bees. So there's probably some conjecture, and we've got to remember that because we're dealing with animal tissue, the fossil records are actually quite sparse. But it seems that bees spread from Africa in some way. How they got there, we're not quite sure. Whether they started there or they moved from the Near East, which now seems to be as I understand it, the main suggestion. They then spread in different directions as an expanding species would, and they became isolated by natural barriers, which could have been perhaps mountains, sand, water, ice, or whatever. And there they developed into subspecies that we know today, and their characteristics developed to suit the environment that they found themselves in. So let's look at some of the common examples. I think there might be something wrong with this here, but let's see how we go. Let's look at some of the common examples, so perhaps we can understand why bees perhaps behave slightly differently. Let's look at Italians first, because worldwide they're probably the most common. They found themselves in the North Mediterranean, and quite a small area really, but their climate was warm and predictable, with long summers and short winters. And I've spoken to beekeepers from Tuscany, and their bees are bringing in reasonable or good quantities of nectar for 10 months of the year, which is a little bit annoying, I find. So they have a long forage period. So they decided that they would be very prolific, or the queens would be very prolific, so building up huge colonies. That's fine, because there's plenty of bees to go out and get whatever forage there is. We know they need an awful lot more food, just observation shows you that. Cooper suggests that they need 2.5 times the amount of food over our native bees, or compared to our native bees, just for maintenance purposes, so just to keep them going throughout the year. And then carniolans, which we briefly mentioned before lunch, are very closely related. If you look on a map, they come from an area only a few hundred miles to the east, but the conditions there are quite different. So Eastern Europe, where they have long cold winters and short warm summers. They tend to come from the sort of alpine areas quite a bit. Of course, we all know what alpine summers are like. Of course, there's plenty of forage for a short period. So how they evolved was to winter in small clusters to presumably conserve what food they had, build up very, very quickly in spring so that you've got a big summer forage force. So the queens then became very, very prolific in the summer. I don't know why, but I suspect it's to cover for heavy winter or heavy natural winter losses that they swarm like crazy. And anyone who's had anything to do with Carneolans will tell you that. Sometimes it's a job to keep in the hive. And then our native honeybee, which is now universally known as the dark northern European honeybee, is native to the whole of the area north of the Alps and Pyrenees, right out to the Atlantic seaboard in the west, the Urals to the right, and as far north as bees would survive naturally. So it had to be way below the tree line for obvious reasons. So what do they find themselves with is long winters with cool, unpredictable summers, and that's the key, cool, unpredictable, and very often our bees can go 2, sometimes 3 weeks where they cannot forage. So conditions are variable, and that is considered to be the reason why our native bees are more adaptable than any of the other subspecies. So they decided that they would be non-prolific, and to compensate, the bees would live longer. And if you think about it, it takes exactly the same amount of food and effort to get a bee from egg to emergence, or foraging for that matter, however long it lived in the adult stage. So anything you can get in the adult stage, of course, is going to be a benefit. And that's probably one of the reasons why if you look in a colony with non-prolific queen, you very often think there's a lot of bees in there. And it's simply because I think they live longer. They are pretty frugal, and they've got several techniques that they use, one of which is queens going off lay during the summer when there's a shortage of food. They tend to fly at low temperatures, both workers, drones and queens. You might think, well, what's the point of that? But if you think about it seriously, certainly during the winter, if the workers fly at lower temperatures, they can go out on cleansing flights where perhaps some of the others might stay at home and defecate within the hive and possibly spread nosema at a higher rate. The drones and queens, we are fairly certain, although I've never ever seen any figures, we're fairly certain that they mate at lower temperatures. And certainly some of the places I'm involved with, like perhaps the Orkneys, where everything sometimes can be horizontal for a month. They don't, there's wind, rain, sleet, snow and all the rest of it, even during the summer. They don't have the problems of getting queens mated that we do on the mainland. Then there's buckfast. I've got to mention buckfast because they are becoming more popular. I've got to say they're not a breed, and it's a surprising number of beekeepers who seem to think they're a breed. They're not. What are they genetically? I have absolutely no idea. Different so-called buckfast, they're all sorts of things. Some are straight hybrids, some are a bit of this, bit of that, bit of something else. Somebody's shaking their head and somebody's nodding their head. So. From what I see of them, they are very, very variable. Just have a look at buckfast breeders' websites and you can see, even in one photograph, you see bees that are all different within the same photograph. Seems to me there's no stability amongst them. What I do know is that wherever I go, they seem to get the blame for the next generation being bad-tempered, and that seems to be quite a universal thing. Now, I've never used them myself, but I have handled bees on many occasions. I've been told of buckfast or the next generation, and they can be quite bad-tempered. Now, the key is, of course, to keep them the same. You've got to keep buying queens, and that, of course, is why Brother Adam kept an abbey going for so long. And that, of course, is unsustainable. Yes, there are people on peninsulas and places like that which are keeping whatever they've got fairly pure, but that's about it. Now there may well be people who disagree with that, and let's have a discussion. So our native bee, it's evolved to suit our climate. I think they're easy to manage. I've handled them on many occasions, and the real pure ones really are a joy to handle. But there again, so are pure Carniolas and pure Italians. They're nice and cheap to run, so you haven't got to keep buying lorry loads of sugar. So although we may not have them, we can select for their characteristics, and that's what I've done in Sussex. I guess some of you folk further north may well have some that are fairly pure. I really don't know too much about that. What I do know is there was a Colos study, and the report was in 2014. It was a study that was done between 2009 and 2012. Now, Colos is an organisation of international bee researchers, and what they did was they compared different bees in different places. There were 21 locations throughout Europe where they'd done these experiments, where in each case they took the local strain, whatever that was, and two foreign origins. So overall it was in 11 countries, 621 colonies altogether, and what they were trying to do was to see which performed the best. And in every case, the locally adapted bee, whatever that was, performed best in all cases. Which, if you come to think about it, is what bees have been telling us for 40 or 60 million years, or however they've been in existence. Now, feral colonies, they're the ones that are either in trees or buildings or something like that. Over 55 years of keeping bees, I've removed many of them. Only a couple of weeks ago, I took one out of a massive oak tree. I've probably removed several hundred, certainly 2-3, might even be approaching 400. Many of them pre-varroa, and bees very definitely behaving differently since varroa has arrived than before. Pre-varroa, I'm pretty certain some of those wild colonies were there for a long time. So they just kept going and going and going. Now, if they've been established for any length of time, they tended to have the characteristics of our native bee. Even though the colour may not be always dark, some of them, certainly the workers, will be maybe quite light. They were usually non-prolific, presumably because the cavities available to them may not have been big enough for them to provide enough space for overwintering. Queens are usually darkish, and that told me something. Presumably because yellow ones, in my experience, are more prolific, and I doubt if you get the bright yellow queens in this area. Certainly in other parts of the country, you do. They tend to be of New Zealand or Australian Italians. They simply do not survive. Despite what you may read, I've always found that they're very healthy. I've never ever seen one of the foul broods or other foul broods in a wild colony. Chalk brood always seems to be at a very, very low level. So I suspect, but I don't know, I suspect if a colony is subject to a chalk brood, there may well be some other weakness to it, and nature will just take it out. But I don't know. It'd be interesting if somebody could do some work on that. So they were survivors. The exotic types I told you don't live very long. It really is natural selection. That tells me something. But most of us have moments, I suspect. I think they can be improved, which we've already discussed. Perhaps we could, together, perhaps form a little group, or perhaps a local beekeeping association can do an extension of their teaching apiary. It may not be the apiary manager's job, perhaps they can sort of subcontract out to somebody else. You know, you get involved with the queen rearing or whatever. And I'm sure most beekeeping associations will be able to find somebody who could help. All I can ask is please don't parachute queens in, because at the end of the day it's not going to do any good. To the best of my knowledge, all the 5 national beekeeping associations, so England, Scotland, Wales, Ulster and Ireland, Southern Ireland, they've all got a policy of non-importation. Well, so all I'm suggesting is use what suits your area, whatever that is, and please raise your own queens. Nice and easy, we'll show you how to do it. So, how do I select breeding and cull? Well, it's a bit simple, not scientific at all, and some of the geneticists amongst us will probably have a bit of a laugh about this, but it works for me. You folk can do the same. So all I do is I take my colonies, how many I've got, and split them into 2 roughly equal groups. It's only a mental thing, it's not that lot there and that lot there. I call them Group A. They're the ones that are the better ones, that have got the characteristics that I want, or largely the characteristics I want. And I'm raising queens from within that group and using them. And I'm not replacing queens unless there's something wrong with the queen. Perhaps she's starting to fail or something like that. And then I've got Group B, so this is the 50% that are less desirable, and I'm constantly requeening them, perhaps once a year, sometimes might be twice a year, depends what the situation is. So it doesn't matter how many colonies you've got, whether it's just 2, perhaps like that, or perhaps you've got 8, or perhaps a bigger group, bigger individual beekeeper, or a group, or perhaps a local beekeeping association. It doesn't really matter. And then when I get the opportunity, just raise queens from one colony, not the same one all the time. I very rarely get 2 batches from the same queen. And then I requeen some of those in the bee group, not all of them, some of them. And then, when the queens get mated, if I find one in B group that's better than one in A group, they get swapped over. And my simple mind works out that that way you can improve your bees quite significantly. Although I'm sure, as I said, the geneticists will pick holes in that. Then try again. So it's as simple as that, and I'm sure everyone, ordinary beekeeper can do it. Now, to produce queens, we clearly need queen cells, because they're not useful bits of kit. So queen cells then. Personally, I don't think they're understood anywhere near enough. So what do you folks do when you see queen cells? I think I heard it. That's what usually happens, isn't it? But why? Why do people panic? Because I think they could be great opportunities. They can provide you either with genetic material or the situation to put genetic material in. So don't start panicking. Think about it right from the start. Think as positive beekeeping. So natural queen cells then. We got them built, or the bees build them under 3 impulses. Swarm cells, which is colony reproduction. Emergency cells where the queen goes absent, which I have to say in a natural state I've never seen. Take a natural colony out, I've never ever seen evidence of emergency cells. And supersedure cells, which is where you get queen replacement. So effectively the same thing, but for three very different reasons. Sadly frowned upon by some, and I've absolutely no idea, because sometimes you get a speaker who will tell you not to use swarm cells or emergency cells or whatever, and then tell you how to do an artificial swarm. And I really don't understand it. But that sort of thing happens. But bees have been using them for millions of years. Millions of years. And all of a sudden we come in and say, oh no, that's not good. But I wouldn't mind betting that if we analysed all your colonies, probably 75%-ish of queens come from natural cells, queen cells, in one way or another. Think about it. So, let's find out a bit about them. Look, you reckon you can all recognise emergency supersedure and swarm cells if you saw them in a colony? I don't mean swarm cells just because they're supposed to be around the side of the frame and on the bottom, and supersedure cells on the face. I don't mean that. I mean actually looking at the number of cells, where they are, and the state of the colony. Now, can you do it? Have a look on Cushman's website. That's the easiest way. There are ways to tell. You need to understand that bees will swarm on all kinds of queen cells, even though they may not be built by the bees for swarming purposes. If the colony's in the right condition and the weather is fine, even if they're emergency cells or supersedure cells, the chances are, like 80% in my experience, will go out. So don't think they can't swarm on emergency and supersedure cells. I mentioned leaving two queen cells this morning. This is something that's come into beekeeping probably in the last 15 or perhaps 20 years. And the thinking is that if you leave two queen cells, if something happens to one, you've always got the other one as an insurance. Have you all heard that? Do you believe it?
No.
Why not? Because you tried it and your swarm go out. Right, what usually happens is, if the colony's in the right condition and the weather's fine, the first one to emerge will go out with a swarm. If you don't believe me, leave two queen cells and see what happens. Now, worse still, how long does it take a colony of bees to detect that a queen cell is dead? 5, 6, 7 days. You can tell that quite easily because it then takes them a long time to start chewing it down and getting rid of the contents. On several occasions I've had 2 queen cells left. The bees have swarmed with the first one to emerge and left the dead one behind. Right? And if you don't believe me, you keep 2 queen cells, you make sure you go on your local association swarm list, so when somebody within a mile of you says they've got bees in their chimney, you go and sort it out, because the chances are they come from yours. Okay? So, don't fall by that one, because you'll trip over whatever happens. We're also told that they should be left unsealed. Why left unsealed? Because sealed ones could be dead. But hang on a minute. What about the unsealed ones in 2 or 3 days' time? They could also be dead, couldn't they? But there is a reason. Sometimes when they emerge, down comes the lid, out comes the queen, what happens? Worker inside, clean out the residual raw jelly, and bees have got a bit of mischief, haven't they? So what do? Close up the lid. That's it, we've all been fooled. So that's one good reason perhaps for leaving them unsealed, but all you need to do is just touch the end of the cell with a hive tool or something like that, and If it's emerged, the tip will come off. If not, it will stay there firm. So that's one thing you can do. The other thing is, of course, with a natural queen cell, you don't always know the age of them within a couple of days or so. So perhaps if you leave them, you could end up with them emerging before you expect them to. So what it does do is give you extra time. Now we all know that queen cells are sealed for 7 days. So if you leave an unsealed one and you're a weekend beekeeper, if you leave it on let's say the Saturday unsealed, you know that when you go next Saturday, the queen shouldn't have emerged. So it does give you time. So there is good reason for leaving it unsealed, but not the reasons that we usually give. You need to know one or two things, and one of the most useful things is the more queen cells that are built at the point of swarming, usually the more swarming the colony is. So if you get 2 colonies side by side, one's put up, let's say, 8 or 10 queen cells at the point of swarming. So when the first one is about to be sealed, and the other one's put up 40, the one that's put up 40 is going to be much more swarmy than the other one. So if they were both put up at the same time, don't think, oh, all those queen cells, we've got roots, because what we'll probably find is that you've got quite a swarmy colony. Use the other one. I used to reckon 18 was my dividing line. More than that I wouldn't use. I'm having a problem with this over here. More than that I wouldn't use. Less I would. Now it's down to about 10 or 12 because I've improved the swarmability of my bees from what I used to. I think things are okay now, man. So emergency cells. These are the ones that are built on worker larvae. So usually when the queen goes missing, all the bees think that they are queenless. Personally, I think they're badly misunderstood. Now we know they prefer to build them on new comb or the edge of comb. So perhaps if you've got a colony, some of the comb is fairly old. Others is new. It's the new comb they're more than likely to build the emergency cells on, or perhaps the edge of the comb. So what happens when a queen is removed? Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Ian, it might be the presenter that's wobbling a bit, not the microphone.
If I was still speaking in terms of my wife, I'll tell you what they do.
Can you look up, Roger? The glare from the top of your head's actually affecting the video.
It's upstairs. On classic.
No.
Why not? Why not? Right. You folk are paying for this. Right, is that any better? Okay, good stuff, right. So what happens when a queen is removed from a colony? I know what the books say, and until a few years ago, I believed, I'm still having problems with it. I can't hear myself. Anyway. Okay, all right. You're right, Carl. So what happens then when a queen moves from colony? Are you sure? Now these are my observations, and to the best of my knowledge, they're not shared by books. But I'd like some other people to try it out, because this is what the bees tend to realise. Most colonies within it's about an hour. No. Do I keep coming and going? I'll tell you what, if I do every other word with this one. Right, let's have another go. Right, the bees tend to realise within about an hour that they do vary quite a bit from colony to colony, not always the same. Some are almost undetectable as queenless. Other bees I've seen have been absolutely frantic in a couple of hours, and I've seen colonies, single brood chamber colonies with no supers on. I've actually seen bees running around on the roof, presumably looking for their queen. I guess some of you older beekeepers have as well. It doesn't happen very often, but they do seem to do it occasionally. Now, when do they start emergency cells? How many hours later? I've done a little bit of work on this, and it does vary. But interestingly, about 5 years ago, I suppose, at the BBKA Spring Convention, I was just looking on the BBKA stand of some of the old past papers, exam papers, and this to be a question. How long does it take a colony to start building emergency cells? Well, I've done a bit of work on it, and there were two people on the BBKA stand, and I just asked them, and they were both on the exam board. One of them didn't even say good morning, good afternoon, or whatever it was, it just disappeared into the distance. And the other one said, well, I don't know, I didn't set the question. Which probably tells you a little bit about the exam board perhaps. But I try to explain what I've had, what I've seen, and you can check this out yourself. It's quite a difficult experiment to do, but some colonies, within about 12 hours, you can see that they're starting to build emergency cells. Others I've found 2 days later, like 48 hours, and they haven't even started. So there's something going on, perhaps with the pheromones, and I don't understand why. All I know is there's certainly a day and a half difference, and I don't know the reason. And it would be interesting to know what the answer was going to be in the module, because I think it's something that beekeepers should know. But I really don't know how long it takes them. Right, now, what I found was that the bees stagger them over 3 to 4 days. And we're told that they build them all together, and the reason that some get sealed before others is because the bees build on older larvae. Yeah. Check them out, have a look in there. See, when you just get the little puddle of royal jelly, have a look at the size of the larva, and I bet you'll find that the larvae are actually small, not large as we're told. Anyway. Yeah, they usually use larvae. Right. Now what happens is we're very often told to cut the seal, the older ones, out at this point. So what happens is, think about it, the bees usually build more. So perhaps if you've got 15 in there and you take 10 out, the bees tend to build roughly the same number. So let's say another 10. Right, now all of these are getting older. They're all getting older. So what happens? The bees start them all together, and they're the ones they all start together, not as what I call the first wave. These are very often built on older larvae, and they usually end up with poorer queen cells and poorer queens. This is why I think emergency cells have a reputation, a bad reputation, and I call these panic cells rather than emergency cells. Now, that will probably get shot down, but please, please, please try it, because I think you'll find the same as I did. And how this stuff keeps going, I really don't know. Now, we get our emergency cells, so you can manage that, and you can get some cracking queens from emergency cells, I promise you. Okay, you can get some poor ones, but so you can with any other form of queen rearing. Simple. So decreen one of your group A colonies, so one of your good ones. So you take the queen away. Don't cull her, look after her, because she's so good that you want to use her to improve your bees. So what you can do is requeen one of your bee colonies or make up a nucleus with her. Immediately you've got a benefit, straight away. Okay, and if you want to go on a queen introduction, Carl's got some booklets at the back. Have you sold them all yet?
They've gone.
They've all gone. Right, what will happen is you take the queen away, the bees will build queen cells on worker larvae, so you will end up with your emergency cells. Don't cut them out for 7 to 9 days. Don't cut them out, otherwise you'll end up with the problems that we know about. Then, if you only want one, reduce to one. If you want them for something else, other colonies, distribute them, either amongst your own colonies or other beekeepers. And that is a nice, easy way of doing it. I once heard of a commercial beekeeper who had 500 colonies of bees, and that is his only method of queen rearing. And I understand from people in the locality he had some really good bees. So it can work. That's a nice, easy way of doing it. You don't need any grafting or anything like that, because the bees are doing it. Now, swarm control methods. Most of them, you're going to have surplus queen cells. Some methods you can use for increased too, such as the artificial swarm. I have to say I've never ever used artificial swarm myself for the purposes it was intended. I have in a modified version for something else. But it's a method that's very often taught. Most beekeepers know it. So we'll go along with it. There are some other methods where you use a board and an extra brood box. And 3 names that come to mind are Snellgrove, Horsley and Demery. There are variations on those. They don't work for everybody, but if you're understanding what's happening inside the colony, then they should work reasonably efficiently. So you end up with a board there. So you've got the bottom brood chamber, which is usually a new comb, supers above, then the board, and then the old brood chamber above. I can't go through it today, but the basic principles of all of them are exactly the same. There's lots of benefits with that too. You end up with bees and queens usually in the top box. Very suitable for small apiaries too. Not great if you've got out apiary or big numbers, but with those you'll end up with new comb as well. Here's a very successful apiary I came across. I think there were 14 colonies there altogether. You can see straight away as an experienced beekeeper that apart from the one on the left, which might have been a nuke, but I don't know, they all look very, very similar. And if you go into an apiary and you see hives all over the place, the beekeeping is perhaps not going to be as efficient as if they're all very, very similar. This beekeeper used the Snellgrove system, and there's one of the entrances open there. If you look carefully at all the others, you'll see that's what he did all summer whether the bees were showing signs of swarming or not. That's what he did, and he did really well at it. He got 14 colonies of bees, all in Langstroth jumbo hive, so bigger than use and probably bigger than most of you folk. He had native or near native bees. They were pretty close to being native, and everything was on Snellgrove boards, unless they were fairly small colonies. Certainly all the full colonies were on Snellgrove boards, and you got a really good crop of honey, and you was consistent. This year, which was not last year before, I think you got £1,200 off 14 colonies. Change colour, which I mentioned. Now the great thing about it is he had the opportunity to cull his poor queens, and his bees were really, really good. So simple things like that can be done by all beekeepers. Now for the more advanced, those who want perhaps more queens, either on your own or individuals working together. So as an organised group, perhaps a beekeeping association. In that case, you may need what I call artificial queen rearing. So what is artificial queen rearing? I've never seen a definition, so I made one up. To encourage bees to convert a worker larva into a queen by manipulating the larva or the cell the egg was laid in, then presenting to a colony that's in a condition to build it into a queen cell. And I can't think of anything simpler than that. If anyone can come and speak to me afterwards. The advantages of this are you can get greater number of queen cells raised. So you can do almost as many as you like, really. The great thing is that within a little bit, you know the age of them. So within perhaps half a day, you know the age of them, so you know when they should be emerging. And you can plan things in advance, which you can't always do with swarm cells, because swarm cells can be, the queen can lay staggered over perhaps 6, sometimes 7 days. So now all of a sudden the timing can suit you. So instead of the bees deciding to queen cells 2 days before you go on 2 weeks holiday in June, you can start 2 days after you come back. So you get more control. Here are some artificial methods, and I'll just put these up almost at random. The cell punch cutting comb, which I'm going to go through the miller, and larval transfer, which you folk will probably know as grafting, and the cell plug, which will be known generically as Genta or cut kit. I'm just briefly going to do these. With the cell punch, you just get a tube, you take a frame with the other end of the age you want, you literally punch out the cell and then mount it. And in fact, somebody here has made some, and I'm sure they'll be happy to show you at break time. So you end up with, you can put them in a put the frame like that, and you end up with queen cells like that. They're pretty good queen cells made. There is going to be a book out soon on punching when I can finally get round to get a publisher for it. Now the miller method is a fairly simple method. You get a comb, and it could be the comb that you've got in your if you've had drawn out above the queen excluder. And what you do is you cut it into a shape. This W shape that everyone loves is actually quite easy. And then you get the queen to lay in it, and then you cut back the comb to the larva of the right age. They then put queen cells on the edge as they started to do here. And then larval transfer, which you know is grafting, where you take an artificial cup. I prefer the plastic ones like that rather than wax ones. They're an awful lot easier. But all you do is take a larva out of a comb, put it in these little cups and let the bees get on with it. It really is quite simple. And then you end up with queen cells like that. And then finally there's the gentle cup kit, which is a little plastic box that replicates a comb. That's got holes in that the queen seems to think are cells. Behind the cells are little plugs which are effectively the base of the cell. So when the queen lays in, you put the queen in the box, you retain her in there with that queen excluder, load it up, and when the eggs hatch into larva, you take those, put them in a little holder, and you end up with might have some here. Yeah, some there. You end up with queen cells like that. Now, these methods are probably pretty good for a local beekeeping association, so you get 10, 20, 30 queen cells quite easily. But the choice is yours, it doesn't matter which you use. They are different ways of achieving the same thing. There's lots more. The reason I've mentioned those is that with the cell punch, it will punch the cell with the larva in, so you're not actually touching the larva. The Miller method, you're encouraging the queen to lay in the comb and then cutting back to larva of the right age. Local transfer, you're taking the larva out and putting it in the cup. And with the cup kit, you're encouraging the queen to think that she's laying in the comb. You then take the base of the comb and or base of the cell rather, and put it in a holder. They all work. So you use what suits you. It really doesn't matter. There's not that much cost to any of them really. But what I suggest you do is get proficient with one and then try another. Don't just fiddle around with one, then fiddle around with another, then fiddle around with another, because I think you'll just get a bit despondent. Now we need to raise queen cells from the larva that we've got. So how can we do it? You need to remember how the bees are going to do it. There are 3 options: swarming, emergency and procedure. So swarming and procedure are very difficult to replicate simply. So we're left with emergency, which is nice and easy, because all that is basically is just taking a queen away from the colony, so we end up with a queenless colony. All we can do then is copy them. So here we are. You get a nice strong colony. Take one frame out so that we can put our frame in. It needs to be a nice strong colony, and when I say strong, it needs to be bursting in bees, not just a colony on 10 or 11 frames. It needs to be bursting in bees, so you hold the frame up and you can hardly see the brood underneath. So you need plenty of bees. Colony must be prosperous. It needs to have plenty of grub and plenty of pollen especially. Just because it's got food doesn't mean to say that it's necessarily going to be good at producing queen cells, because of course what we're trying to do is get the young bees to produce the brood food. Now in my experience, bees don't like uncapping sealed food rather. If it's either food that's coming in or it's unsealed, or perhaps feed, which I don't particularly like doing, they seem to produce a lot more brood food under those conditions. It could be a group B colony, and it could also be a honey producing colony too. So what better with one of your poorer colonies than to requeen it, get it producing queens for you and producing honey as well. So you can have a productive one of your poorer colonies. I suggest very strongly that you mark the top of the bars of what you've got there. I've been on many occasions and taken the wrong frame out. Now we've got our queen cells, we need to distribute them. So the receptive colony must always be queenless. There are occasions when perhaps you can put a queen cell in a queen-like colony, but we're not dealing with that at the moment. So you need to leave them several hours so that they realise they're queenless, or protect the queen cell. And I'm sure you all know how to do that. You may well have emergency cells, especially if you've taken queen cells away, so you need to call them out first. And then, if you've got a gap frame, that's a gap or a hole, that's the easy way to do it. If not, just make one. So just push your thumb into the face of the cone. You've then got somewhere that you can put your queen cell in and hold it by the piece of cone at the back, not the queen cell itself, if you can help it. That I find nice and easy. So you need to get them mated in some sort of colony. I think a nucleus is as good as any for the ordinary beekeeper. And I'll show you how to make nucleus up in a minute. There's several ways of doing it. Those makeshift stands, they're nice and easy, they're cheap. You can use milk crates and all the rest of it, but remember, milk crates belong to somebody. So unless you find them in a skip, then they do belong to the dairy or whatever. So please don't go pigeon milk crates just for the sake of it. This is the queen rearing section at the bottom end of the Whisper Green teaching apiary. You can see the main colonies in the background. We've got the queen rearing section right down at the bottom, out of the way. Try to get entrances facing different directions if you can, because very often you're getting queens coming back from mating or orientation flights at the same time. When they're out, bees are found at the entrance, and if they're all facing the same way, there is an outside chance that they'll come back to the wrong one. And of course, if they come back to the wrong one, they'll get slaughtered. Try and put them in shade, because nukes, especially, are very vulnerable to change in temperature. So if you've got them in sun, they're going to struggle to ventilate them. That then puts them under pressure, under stress rather. If you put them under stress, you then open up for possible disease issues. Keep away from colonies too, because if you handle a colony, a big colony, go and have a look half an hour or so later and you'll still see fanning bees at the entrance. If you've got a big colony here and a colony with a queen is likely to come back from a mating flight there, she comes back to her home, this colony is fanning more than that one, and she could well go into the wrong one to be slaughtered. So try and keep them away from full colonies if you possibly can. I know with some teaching apiaries, even some apiaries, it's not particularly easy, but there are other things you can do. One of which is, I suggest not inspecting when queens are likely to be going on mating flights between perhaps 10 o'clock in the morning and 6 o'clock at night. I know that's what we're told, but let's not put tripwires in. We are producing some really good queens, or hopefully some really good queens, and we don't want to jeopardise that in any way. So, problems raising queens. Some queen cells don't emerge. You tend to get a black mush inside, or perhaps a queen not develop. I suspect that will be one of the viruses. That takes me out of the depth. But obviously, black queen cell virus is a mushy one. But why some of the others get to a certain stage and then don't develop anymore, I don't know. They don't return from mating flights. It's surprising the number that emerge with deformed wings. Surprising. Another thing, of course, can be beekeeper induced. So what I suggest you do is check within about 3 days of the queen emerging. Have a look in the colony. Have a look for a virgin queen. If you see with all the wings, just close up and leave it. If she's got deformed wings, she will never ever go out mated. All she do is just come out, end up on the ground and be predated on. That's all. She won't even hive. So make sure that you check if you possibly can. Don't forget, it takes about 5 days for the section to mature to go out on their orientation flights. So if you leave her that length of time, of course, you could be looking when she's going out on a flight. Some don't get mated at all. The cold weather is very often blamed. It might be that, or perhaps there's something wrong with the queen. And even last year in good weather, sometimes it took queens 4, 5, 6 weeks even to get mated. Now I know we're usually told that 3 weeks and more than 3 weeks and they won't. I can tell you they do. So whatever it is, don't get put off. Just because there are problems, I can assure you that other people are having problems as well. Let's just try and do the best with what we've got. Any questions? Anything? Yeah. Yeah. Queenless. Well, you can do it with a queen right hive, but I'm suggesting that the easy way to start off is a queenless hive.